And we're live. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you again. I know we've chatted this morning, but I'm back with a normal live stream of Saturdays. I have CJ and Trinda with me today. And our topic of conversation this time is a bit complicated and convoluted. So if you have any questions, I'll try to answer most of them as best as I can or point you in the direction of people who can answer them. And if you have any information to share yourself, feel free to do so. Our topic, as the title says, is the new GDPR regulations and how those impact authors and what you can do about it to be compliant and avoid any problems. I would like to preface this by saying we are not lawyers or any type of legal advisors. Feel free to do your own research and talk to experts. The people I've talked to are generally entrepreneurs. I'm in some groups with some data security consultants, so people who kind of know what they're doing. I've also spoken to other authors. I have my information from the UK ICO site, which is the body that governs private data and its usage, and from whatever information I could get from newsletter services, so email marketing tools, and any other types of services that are required to be compliant. So that's where I got my information. I will tell you how I interpret it and why. You can feel free to look into it for yourself. And please look into it. Don't stop at people's Facebook posts. I would strongly recommend that. Read the guides for yourself. Read the emails from MailerLite and MailChimp and other providers like this. Talk to your own authority if you have one in your country. And don't be misled by the fact that you're not in the EU. It affects you. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
There are people who are just like, well, I'm not going to sell to people in the EU. It's like, holy, that's kind of weird.
Like
I'm cutting out a whole bunch of readers that way.
Like if you don't want to have any dealings with people in the EU, you will have a hard time of it. First of all, because you have to restrict your website by location, and you need like hardcore development for that, or tools or plugins that restrict traffic to all EU countries. Also, you have to find a way, if you know one, please let me know, to make sure that EU citizens traveling in the UK don't in the US or any other non-EU country never access your website. I don't know how you do that, but good luck. Also, you will have to require location for your newsletter and hope that people give you the right one, or that your email provider identifies the right one. It doesn't always work. You can't always know. And there's such things as VPN, which pretty much doesn't tell you where people are coming from. They can show up as being from, I don't know, New Zealand, and they're actually in Antarctica, whatever. So it's kind of impossible to go around it, but being compliant is not that difficult, especially if you're just starting out. And you don't have much to figure out. You just have to implement a certain type of forms on your website and make sure your comments and contact forms are secured. That's about it. And public privacy policy.
That's good stuff to strive for, because, you know, it's data. And you would want people to handle your data properly the same way that other people would, right?
Yes,
so
of course.
Can we start, before we get really into this, let's start by talking about what GDPR is.
GDPR.
Ah,
you always say it the other way around. So
I do.
Is short for General Data Protection Regulation. And this is pretty much a bunch of laws issued by the EU to protect private data and give individuals more rights and more control over how their data is used. That's the gist of it. There already existed a current Data Protection Act, and if a company was compliant with the former regulations, it won't be very difficult for them to comply with the new ones, as far as I understood from friends who, are in the EU and have to comply. I know it's a bit difficult for companies outside the EU because they have to have a certain certification. I forget how it's called. It's not relevant, but that's not the same thing for individuals. You are not a company. You won't require that much level of in-depth audit and compliance, but there are still things you need to do for your website. And if you have anything like a newsletter sign-up form or a contact form or comments on your blog or an affiliate link or anything that pretty much requires data from your users, you need to comply. So if you think, well, I'm just having this author website where I have people signing up for my newsletter, well, yeah, that applies to you because you are collecting private data from your visitors. That's about it. That's the gist of it. And it's not that complicated. It just gives people a lot more rights to their data. And they can ask you to do things with their data that they couldn't ask of you before, which I do not think is a bad thing. If you've ever in your life been added to a newsletter without your permission, then this is for you, because people will be discouraged from doing that. If you ever commented on a blog and forgot to untick a checkbox, and because you posted a comment, you got subscribed to a newsletter, then this will delight you, because they won't be able to do that anymore.
It's kind of like it's wrangling in the whole Wild West sort of nature of your data in a lot of regard.
It's what the internet should have been doing, or what government should have been doing like 10 years ago.
Yeah, but I think everyone, the internet comes with a lot of benefits and a lot of downsides, and regulating it is really difficult because it's an international thing.
Right.
And there is no overarching governing law. There's no such thing.
Which is why we want to get to a post-scarcity society and have one world rule, right?
Yeah, well, funny you should mention that. In a post-scarcity society, privacy is the hardest commodity to offer.
I was interesting. I think it's one of the YouTubers that you recommended a couple of, I don't know, weeks, months ago.
Yeah.
But I was watching a video about privacy in a post-scarcity society.
Yeah, that's Isaac Arthur.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And it was fascinating. I actually watched it twice because it's a lot of information. But I think
while I was watching it.
Yeah, we're moving in that direction, and so I think that this is it's a first step, I guess. Maybe a second step. There's already the Data Protection Act, but a second step in that direction, and so it is important. And
yeah, I think it is. I mean, it goes into very fine details. I got an email from Amazon, not from Amazon, sorry, from Google AdSense, that I can actually require them to offer non-specific ads on my website or require consent from people. Because you know how it is. You go, you check Dragon, you buy Dragon, and then everywhere you go,
it's everywhere.
It's there.
Advertisements for Dragon, and you already have it. You're not going to buy it again. So that's annoying. Plus, if you do that as a website owner, then you kind of force them to pick ads that are relevant to your website. So if someone goes to my travel blog after checking out Dragon, they will get travel ads, not an ad for Dragon. So there are a lot of things that will impact us, and it's nice. And you will no longer be able to be bombarded with a lot of information or ads you don't want, which is great. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. The problem with the GDPR thing is that nobody thought it would pass in this detail. And when it passed, it kind of took everyone by surprise, although it shouldn't have. And
I feel like that's a running gag these years.
Yeah, but the thing is, like,
yeah,
the local variant of ICO, like a couple of weeks ago, they had nothing. They had no idea what they were supposed to be doing. So that was interesting. So far from what I've seen, the ICO in the UK is the most open one, and they're pretty good at trying to temper people and tell them, like, it's not that bad.
It's not the end of the world.
We won't come to you on May 26th and fine you. Right. If you happen to be audited, sorry, not investigated. If you happen to be audited on May 26th and we see you're already taking the steps to be compliant, we're going to help you and tell you where you need to work. So it's not like this opportunity for them to find everyone. And they have offered a lot of information by phone, which is how I first realized that I didn't need to ask all my subscribers to recommit to the newsletter. Because everybody's doing that. I've already got enough emails doing that. No problem. I did re-sign up for some, but then I got pissed off because people just don't read.
Yeah.
And don't realize they don't have to do that. Like, they just don't. Not in all cases.
I don't think I got any asking me to... Well, I guess because I'm not in the EU, probably.
Yes, because in most cases you can filter by location.
Yeah,
but,
so you don't have to send a blanket email.
But still, apparently you only have to do that if you build your newsletter a certain way. So the thing is that there has to have been active consent, an opt-in form, no pre-ticked boxes, and it should have been obvious what they signed up for. So if it says, sign up to my newsletter and get a free book, and then they enter their details, then you're fine. But the problem is you have to have a record of this.
Right.
And people kind of get weirded out by that. But if you're using a website form, like you have MailChimp and you have a MailChimp form, all that information is stored in MailChimp. You can just search by email and it will tell you where they signed up, when, and through which form. It's fine. If you're using InstaFreebie.
Oh, this gets weird.
Yep. They have a report with all your subscribers over time. So even if you ran a giveaway, let's say with the book that you removed, it's fine. You still have a report of all subscribers. You can download it. It's a CVS file, so you can open it with Excel. It's fine. Same for BookFunnel, who actually double checks. I mean, when they claim a book, they receive an email asking them if they really want it, and then they give them the book. So it's already a double opt-in of sorts. They also, hi Amber, they also provide a report that's downloadable. So you have all this information. The problem with GDPR is that if someone complains about you, the burden of proof is on you. So if you have all these details, you're fine. You don't have to recommit them in any way. Let's get into like what you should do. First of all, you should make sure you update your sign-up forms. I know MailChimp and MailerLite both rolled out GDPR compliant forms. You just need to replace those. It's just code you need to replace. It's fine. It's easy. Then on your website, you have to make sure that your comments are stored securely. Like when they gather information from those who comment on your blog, that data needs to be stored securely. I know there was a problem with WordPress because I use WordPress. Their comments are not encrypted. And they are working on it. So they will roll out an update and offer that. If not, there are plugins. But before all that, it's important to have a privacy policy on your website, which you can Google, take it from a website that's already compliant and adapt it. The problem is that,
like Google a generator. That's what I did the other day. You just like plug in, it asks you questions and you plug in your info and then it generates the text for you. And like read it through afterwards so it actually makes sense and stuff. But like for the most part, it makes it so much easier just to do something like that.
Because before this, you could have a privacy policy as a section of your terms and conditions. Right now, they want it to be separate. And you already had to have a cookie policy. So there's that. And of course, forms. If you use forms on your website, it's the same as with comments. You have to make sure they are GDPR compliant and they store data in an encrypted form. And I knew the problems with WordPress were contact form 7, I think.
Oh man, if you can avoid that plugin, I would recommend avoiding that plugin. Like
I don't use it, but it's not GDPR compliant and it's not the best anyway.
Yeah, it's not from a developer coding standpoint, I don't like it. It's not coded as well as I recommend it to be.
Yeah. So check your forms, check your comments. By the way, if you're using WordPress and you don't want to wait for anything, you can use discuss, whatever it is. I don't know how it's pronounced. I guess it's discuss.
It's probably discuss. Like converse kind of thing.
Yeah, like exactly. I always thought of a disc.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then someone came to me and said, discuss. Oh, I'm a dumbass. Because that makes so much more sense for an app that's for comments. But anyway, discuss stores their data in encrypted forms, and it's a good replacement and pretty easy to install. So
yeah, I would give it a WordPress is usually on the ball about that stuff. So I would give it a week or two. Yeah, they'll have it out pretty soon, I would imagine.
Also, remember, if it's May 25th and you've solved most of your issues with GDPR and you're lacking one, nobody is going to skin you alive for that.
Yeah, it's
nobody, absolutely.
I mean, really, the thing that they just really want is visibility and transparency when people are like giving up their data and stuff. Yeah, that's really all that. It's a lot of common sense stuff. That's kind of what it comes down to. And a lot of people are already doing stuff. It's just some people aren't doing it, and that's the people they're kind of looking at.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, if you look at the clear rights for individuals, you can't fault them for offering this. First is the right to be informed, which is like, obviously. Then is the right to have access to your data. The right to rectify your data. And there's the right to erasure, which is new. I mean, you can ask a company to just forget your data, not just unsubscribe from them, but ask them to
get rid of it altogether.
Every mention of you. Yep, that's new. You have a right to restrict processing of data, so you can allow them to email you about their books, but not allow you to target you by location or whatever with other sort of ads. That you can restrict them. Or you can allow them to give you a certain kind of information by email, but not all of it. They can't just automatically include you in other newsletters and things like that, which I think is fine. Like, it's perfectly fine to have control what they send to you.
Absolutely.
The other one that's new is data portability. So let's say you have a newsletter subscriber. They can ask for a report of all their data that you can export from your dashboard, like for me, for MailerLite, and send them that report, which they can then port to a new provider. Like, they want to subscribe to someone else through MailChimp, and they just want to offer that pack of that data. They can require that. And they can require that from your website as well. Also, the right to object, which is like common sense, and the right not to be subjected to automated decision-making, including profiling, which as an author, it doesn't really affect you, but advertisers, they will hate that. By the way, today I'm having a drink. I'm having my favorite Summersby drink. It's Bear Cider. And the only reason I reached it is because I went to a different store where the top shelf is lower.
Oh, nice.
Hooray for problem solving.
Yeah. Yay. Also, Summersby, if you want to sponsor me. So, yeah, pretty much just to sum it up a bit, all you have to do is make sure your email list is compliant, your email forms are compliant, And your comments and forms on your website, pretty much.
Just, anything that touches people's data, basically.
Yeah. Also, an important bit that people don't talk about as much is that all the apps you're using, they have to be GDPR compliant. So if, for example, you're using an accounting software, if you process data through it, that has to be GDPR compliant as well. Otherwise, you lose your compliance.
Yeah.
Kind of makes sense, but yeah.
Which it'll get easier because basically everyone's going to have to change. Because
everyone is getting compliant.
You can't just cut out the EU. Like, that's not something you can do just because you don't want to have something to do with privacy policy stuff.
And by the way, if you're thinking, oh, but I'm writing in English, it's just UK and Ireland. Nope. Actually, Germany is a huge market for English books. It's like my third market to buy my books. So
really,
there's a lot of people. Plus, where you have to remember this, everywhere where there isn't a local website from Amazon, they are sent to the .com site.
Yeah.
So everyone in Romania, Hungary, Poland, I don't know, whatever country you think of that doesn't have a local site, those people are sent to the .com site.
Yeah.
So you might think you're not affected as an author. You kind of are.
But yeah.
You kind of are.
Well, and it's one of those things where it's like, maybe you're not affected right now because you're not making that many sales in specific places, but isn't the goal to like get more sales in those places anyways? So why would you intentionally like self-inflict that wound later on? Because you're just going to have to deal with this stuff one way or the other if you want to get into that market.
It's way easier to deal with it now.
Yeah.
And to be compliant and just keep it like, one of the things that a lot of people don't think about is that what you've got right now might be okay because it doesn't affect you. But in the future, you're going to want certain things to happen and you want to happen quickly. And you're going to have to deal with it at some point anyway. So you might as well do it now, get it out of the way. And then it's like cleaning your house kind of thing.
Of course, if you don't have a mailing list, like if you don't have a mailing list and if you don't have a website at all, you don't have to do anything. I should say that.
Right. Yeah. It only affects you if you're collecting people's data online.
Yeah, but the moment you have a website.
Why don't you have a website? Why don't you have a mailing list? Come on now. And that's another question you need to ask yourself at this point.
Not all authors have mailing lists. By the way, there are authors who have their website and their author page on Amazon, and instead of using mailing lists, they use Facebook ads and Amazon ads, and those work for them, and they never bothered with a newsletter because they make a lot of money.
But you're still working with people's data, and
no,
I would argue at that point that you're also in the hands of a platform, and that's
but the platform is already compliant. The platform is already compliant.
I would argue that Facebook is not compliant with this whole GDPR thing.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are now because of the huge scandal.
They are now, but I think that's a good case in point for why you should be making compliance a priority now, because
especially when now
if you're somebody like you're somebody like me who's building their first website and just getting into this.
Yeah, for you it's
see it
super easy.
Yeah, I see it as
get
this
it down from the start.
Right. And like I said before, it's like cleaning your house. Like, yeah, you can wait until your house is a complete disaster to clean it up, but it's so much easier to pick stuff up and put it away a little bit at a time and spend 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there. And then you don't feel overwhelmed. You don't have the, your landlord coming by and going, there's stuff rotting. What is this? I mean, like, it's just, it's easier to pick up and do things in little bits than it is to try and wait until it's absolutely necessary and then try and figure out everything in a short amount of time.
Yeah. To be honest, the only reason why I didn't panic is that my mom practiced law for a long time. She was like the equivalent of an in-house counsel for a company. So I don't know many things, but I do know that one of the pillars of law in general, one of the principles is that any law you issue now cannot be retroactively applied. So it doesn't affect the past. Unless you did something shady in the past, like with pre-checked forms and stuff like that, where there wasn't any real consent to begin with, you do not really have to panic. Yes, you have to update your privacy policy and all of those things and update your forms. But if you had consent to start with for your newsletters and for everything else, then you're pretty much done. You just need to spend some time fine-tuning things. Of course, a lot of authors jumped the gun and did what all the other companies were doing, and that's asking their subscribers to re-engage and give their consent again.
Right.
Which is needed in some cases, but not all.
I wonder how many people also did that to get engagement on their lists. Like, that's a good way to get your engagement rates up.
It's not. Most people lost a lot of their list.
Stuff.
No, a lot of people lost a lot of their list because, first of all, the way they put this, the way they express it to their subscribers is very different and confusing. Some say, if you want to stay, click here. If you want to go, click here, whatever. It's confusing, and it's pretty much asking people for their time for something where they shouldn't invest time in. And if those people know anything about this, you're kind of screwed because they're like, oh, you're a dumbass. I don't have to resubscribe. I did give you my consent. What do you want from me? You know?
Right.
And it's like, I mean, if people aren't on point and don't reply to this in like a week, you might remove them from your list when they didn't want to go, which I think is kind of weird. Sarah, I kind of envy you for that bacon. Also, hi, Timmy. I'm really invested in this. So the thing is, like, if you don't know where you got your subscribers, let's say you just changed providers, completely deleted your account, lost your reports from InstaFreebie and BookFunnel, then okay, do it just to be on the safe side. But if you already have records of everyone who subscribed and why, you just don't need to. And I will just read from this. Let me just find it, because it was like the message, the reply someone got on the phone from ICO, but I just have to look for it. It was open, but I closed it because I'm a dumbass. But I'll find it really fast. Okay. So, okay, if your current email subscribers were active opt-ins, and you have a record of these, even if the opt-in wasn't up to the GDPR level required now, you don't need to get people to re-opt-in. If there is an existing relationship and that relationship started with consent, it's covered by legitimate interest. So as long as you give your subscribers an easy way to unsubscribe, you're fine.
Which
you're all done.
Like, you should have had that before, because who wants to be on a mailing list you can't unsubscribe for? The way that I approach like my lists and like this privacy stuff is like, if you wouldn't want someone doing that with your data and you wouldn't want to be in that situation, then you shouldn't be doing that to the people on your list either.
Yep, exactly. That's pretty
much. I think that's like the general idea of this whole legislation, is just to be like a big red reminder to people being like, hey, you don't like this, so cut it out. And I just kind of laugh at this whole situation because a few months ago, MailChimp swapped to the idea that you didn't need double opt-in and that wasn't by default. And I just find it so funny because it's just like, hey, no, that's not okay. Like, you need to stop that. You need the double opt-in.
MailChimp did that for a business reason. MailChimp did that to fill up your subscribers fast and charge you more. To me, I know it kind of complicates things a bit, but it's for all of us is like, it's a positive thing. It's what I'm trying to say.
Well, and I think that to bounce off that, it's dealing with something that's very complicated. I mean, like the internet in general and data collection is a complicated thing. And so the laws that govern it have to be more complicated. And I think it goes back to what we were talking about before, in that this should have happened 10 years ago or whatever. When you're playing catch up in regulation, you have to complicate it, because you have to add all these little things that could have been done you could have been picking up a little bit at a time, and now we have to like dig out a pile of laundry. I mean, like, that's the kind of thing that we're dealing with at this point, and what they're trying to do meaningful work, and I think that it's worth the complications.
Yeah, and also they have this specific thing about children, and the minimum age for processing is like 16. If they're under 16, they need consent from their parents, which is great. And I think they've changed the things on data breaches as well. Because I know you have to notify people in a certain time frame, which is great.
Yeah,
because before there have been like these massive data breaches that took ages to be communicated.
Yeah, like a year later, you find out that your data was
and now you have a way limited time frame to notify the body governing this in your country, and then notify your customers, which is great. Like, I think it's great, because everyone screws up. I'm sure you've all gotten emails from Twitter, if you're using Twitter, where they asked you to change your password. There was no breach, but they just did something messed up. There was a bug that affected this, and they asked everyone to change their passwords. But Twitter is a huge company. They can afford to do that, especially when there is no actual breach. But a smaller company might be tempted to just hide it under the rug. I mean, it was for 30 seconds. Who cares? 2 employees saw it. It's not like you're going to fire one of those employees ever and piss them off and have them live with your data.
Great.
It's fine.
A lot of people in the field, they also sign kind of like sort of like NDAs. Like, you're not, I don't know, it's weird, because like I'm in that situation where like I can't, it's weird because like you're so close to people's data, you've got to separate yourself from that. They pound you over the head with ethics when it comes to data and like programming and stuff.
Yeah, but that's for a programmer.
It's such a big thing. Like, it's huge.
Yeah, but there are salespeople who have a lot of client data and live with it when they're pissed off.
Well, and I'm amazed how many, like, for the programmers and stuff, it's like they've realized that, you have to teach these ethics to people. Otherwise, they just assume, and sometimes they assume wrong. Yeah. But it feels like other fields don't, like, hammer you over the head the same way, I guess, because it's not as in your face. Like, it's just been there forever at this point.
Yeah.
The mentality is kind of grandfathered in.
I know of tests that people did like years back where they just dropped random flash drives around office buildings, infected flash drives, and people picked them up and plugged them in.
Them.
In their work computers and use them. I know of all this because a lifetime ago, when I was still doing my PR and marketing business, I used to do PR for a company that dealt with data security, and they did something that's called endpoint security. So they protected all the connectivity within your network to prevent things like this, like unauthorized flash drives or someone coming with a printer from home that's full of viruses and whatever.
Right.
So I've heard all these stories, and I was like, how can you be so dumb to just pick something off the street and plug it in your computer? Because to me, that's common sense. To most people, it's not. It's just, oh, someone dropped it. It must be okay.
Well, and I think from when I've taken these security courses too, and the way they explained it to us, because they come at it from a perspective that you're that person trying to be malicious. Mm-hmm. So it's like, well, you drop the flash drive with the assumption that that person either assumes they dropped that flash drive without realizing, or someone in their company dropped that flash drive. So the first instinct is to put it into a computer because that's how you find out the identity of the owner.
Yeah.
So it's not even like, most people don't even think twice about it because they just make the assumption that, oh, well, this is within my vicinity, so this is either me or the company in which I'm going to. And how else do you find it out? People don't think like, oh, I'm just going to spin up like a little side dinky computer that I can toast if there's a virus on it, but just plug it in. And then it's
if that's
an open door at that point.
You're not doing all that.
Don't do that. That's me.
Don't do that.
Like, we have disclaimers. Don't do the bad things we talk about.
Yeah. Definitely not. So yeah, I know this is frustrating for a lot of people, especially because a lot of people jumped the gun and did a lot of things, and everyone was like, I mean, I remember reading posts, these were in German and I read them translated, and it was like, if after May 25, you're a blogger who has affiliate links on their WordPress site, you're breaking the law. You could go to jail. You know, that's fear-mongering. That's nothing more than that.
Yeah.
And I saw this like a month and some ago. So, of course, people are kind of freaking out.
Well, and I'm sure there's stuff that's being lost in translation as people are translating stuff and like talking about it, which is, that's a huge issue in itself sometimes, where it's just like hearsay and like essentially people not doing the research themselves a lot of the time.
Like
right.
Or cross-checking, I guess, would be the best thing.
Yeah, but for the main languages of the EU, it's already written in that language. It's not that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, by not being Romanian, and we had to translate it, and that's why nobody knows what they're supposed to do, maybe. But
yeah, like that's one thing.
That's kind of different. Like that's really different. Still, it's I know it's frustrating. Don't get me wrong. I know this is a frustrating time and you have to make changes. I mean, I had to postpone the release of my new website, the relaunch, because now I need to modify the front page because I have to add all these details and checkboxes to the sign-up forms. We lost CJ.
Yeah, I think she's trying to come back. Give her a few minutes. She'll be back with it.
Yeah. So, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. I have to change all that so they no longer fit on the homepage. So now I have to have a button that doesn't just automatically sign you up. It just sends you to the landing page for the newsletter where you can see all the information.
Yeah.
Okay, her internet went out. I'll just message her real quick that we'll be waiting for her.
Oh, there she is.
Sorry.
She's back.
My internet's been really sketchy this morning.
Yeah, it's no problem. If this happens again, we'll just wait for you until you get back. It's absolutely no problem. See, guys, internet tech, we have issues.
Yeah, it happens.
It happens a lot.
An odd place.
It really, really is.
Yes,
the sum of all these problems. The internet's a weird place.
It is, but if you count all the benefits, it's worth it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I would not give up the internet for anything.
Nope.
I like being connected to all of the peoples.
Yeah.
Right? I was talking with my mom. Oh, it's been a while. But we were talking about how it's not that I haven't talked to my mom in a while. It's that this subject was a while ago. But she talks about, I mean, my mom was born in the 50s. And so there was no internet until she was in her 30s.
Holy. I can't even imagine that.
That was early for her.
Yeah. And I remember when the first time I had internet was when I was in high school. And I was in late high school. I think I was a senior in high school. So I would have been 17, 18. The first time I accessed the internet. Like the first time I saw it was an option. Like that was amazing for me. And so, yeah, that was 20 years ago.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I first accessed it at like 16, and it was in an internet cafe.
Yeah.
Not at home.
I'm going to make you guys feel old. I don't remember ever not having the internet.
Yeah, and that's like my former roommate's kids who are 7 and 9. They can't comprehend a world without the internet.
Yeah, like I was trying to do it the other day where it's like, or even cell phones, like,
yeah,
I ran into this thing. It's like my phone died. I'm like, how do I contact this person? I have to meet them at this time. What do I do? What do I do? And I just like, I guess I'll wait until they get there and hope for the best.
Right.
Like,
my mom was talking about that. We, when I was 10, we went on this cross-country trek. My family did. My parents bought a motorhome, like an RV. And we drove from Iowa to California. And the motorhome had many problems in that time period. Like the transmission had to be rebuilt, the alternator had to be replaced. And do you guys know where Donner Pass is?
No, I have no clue.
no.
Okay, in the Rockies, in the Sierra Nevadas, actually, there's this pass through the mountains. There's a highway that goes through it, and it's called Donner Pass. And the reason it's called Donner Pass is that in the 1800s, during the Oregon Trail time period, there was a group of people who were traveling through this pass, and they ended up trapped in this pass during the winter. And they're famous because they ended up eating each other to survive.
Oh,
and
great.
It was called the Donner Party.
Nom, 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 nom.
And so now this is called Donner Pass. And at
were
the
you
top,
there like waiting for the Wendigo to show up and eat you?
Were you getting the munchies?
Hang on, I'll get to that in a second. So we get to the top of the pass, and the motorhome, 2 of the motorhome's wheels fell off.
Oh my God.
Because in a big vehicle like that, you have to make sure you're tightening the lug nuts frequently. And it fell off. They fell off, rolled down the mountain. And this was 1989. So there were we didn't have a cell phone. We're at the top of the mountain, on the mountain. It was like a Sunday or something. So it's a weekend. My dad had to walk to, I don't even know how far it was, but he was gone for several hours to walk to the next town to get to a payphone, which, by the way, you can't even find payphones here anymore. Like payphones aren't a thing.
Yep.
They are a thing here. They definitely still exist, yeah.
I haven't seen one in so long. I can't even tell you the last time I saw one. It might have been in a TV show.
I usually see people getting really angry and like bashing the phone in.
But like he was gone for several hours, and I was 10, so my middle sister would have been 8, 9, and my youngest sister was like 2 or 3.
Yay.
And all my mother had in the only food she had were like 2 peaches. And we still give her crap because she let my baby sister eat a full one. Like she gave her a full one, and my middle sister and I had to split one. And we always talk about, no, that's not fair because she still had baby fat. So she would have been perfectly fine. And we should have each gotten a whole one. And she would have been. But that's like, it's that concept. And she was telling the story, and I think the kids were there, and they couldn't understand, well, why didn't you just call on your cell phone? Well, there weren't any cell phones. And they get this look on their face like, I don't understand what that means. Like for them, it's always been there. It's been part of, yes, dial-up. Oh.
Yeah, that's what we had in our house. We lived outside of the metropolis area. So like, because my mom was in IT already, we got dial-up super early in comparison to the rest of our area, from what I remember. But like, we always had it. And it's just like, what do you mean you don't have internet? I have internet. The funny part is that internet has not improved in the 20 years I've been alive. So they got it really early, and that was it.
That's fantastic.
So, you take your wins and you take your losses. And
oh my God. But that sound of the phone connecting to the internet, that
Oh
was
my
priceless.
goodness.
Oh my God. And I remember.
And you can't make a phone call while it's on. If you don't have a dedicated line for your dial-up, who's on the internet?
you can pick it up
Yeah,
and it's just the same.
Yeah, it's that horrible screeching sound.
Yep.
I was at work once the other day, and I guess someone was faxing something.
Yes.
That's another thing that's like, oh my God, that's still a thing that exists apparently. So someone was faxing something, and I heard that noise, and I looked up from my desk. I'm like, what? And it was the weirdest thing ever. And I had another weird moment where I felt like I just kind of time traveled. One of my friends asked me to install ICQ on my phone, and I'm like, what? ICQ still exists? And I go and I look in the App Store. I'm like, holy shit, it does exist. It's not by AOL anymore, but it's like someone took all the branding and everything and just like, oh, they made an app that is another messaging app.
Wow. That's
like if you're ever feeling nostalgic.
That's fantastic.
Oh, I love old weird technology nuances.
Yeah.
It's great.
Well, when I think about like my grandmother is 80, 86. I think she turned 86 this year. She turns 86. And the amount of adaptation that she's had to go through in her 80 some years, and my grandfather who's 95, like the sheer amount, like she uses Facebook. She may, like watches videos online. She texts me. I text with my grandmother every day. Like that, like the sheer amount of adaptation that had to go for her to learn to use emojis was
That's
like,
awesome.
it blows my mind how awesome she is that she, like I talk about how I didn't have internet when I was a kid. I was like 18, but she didn't get internet until she was like a great grandmother. She was in her 70s, 60s or 70s when she first discovered the internet. And that, like, that just blows my mind. And then I think, what will technology be like when I'm her age?
Oh my God, I can't even.
Like,
that stuff blows my mind even thinking
tell you
about
that we'll all be cyborgs.
And Alina will be the queen of everything by then, like officially.
Yep. I had some notes with probable post-scarcity technology that will have. VR will be super evolved, obviously.
Right.
Heavy robotization and automation, obviously. So we won't do anything. You'll just wake up and your kitchen will have your breakfast ready for you. Imagine that, CJ. It will have the perfect oatmeal for you.
The perfect oatmeal. It will have craisins.
Yes. Then high bandwidth communication, of course.
Right.
Nanotechnology and nanobots, which means virtually will be immortal, and self-repairing structures.
Oh, that'd be neat.
Which will be absolutely amazing. So yes, I think we're going to be just fine. I wouldn't worry much about it. First. Yeah, if we don't kill ourselves, because that's the major problem. Local interests and things like that. But think about it, like your grandmother had to go through all of this, and we're complaining here about the fact that we have to have a new privacy page and change our subscription forms.
Right.
Yeah, no kidding.
This is how you see virtual reality, Timmy. VR is virtual reality, which is fun now, but kind of limited.
Yeah. I haven't tried it. I assume that it would probably make me puke, though, just because, I don't know, I get FOV sickness really quickly with, like, computers and stuff, so, I don't know. I'm finicky when it comes to screens. Probably.
I wonder if, as the technology improves, that kind of reaction will be decreased.
Yeah, they will adapt.
Assume so.
Sickness. Yeah. I've tested, like, my boyfriend has an Oculus VR set, and I tried that, and it's fascinating. It's really fascinating. There's one where you're like in New York on a high rise, and you're on a platform, and you look down.
Oh, good Lord.
No,
God,
thank you.
Scary, that's scary as fuck.
I'm just gonna go and fuck off right over here.
If you've been up the CN Tower, it's the exact same sensation.
I don't want to go on the CN Tower.
Also, there's one where you're in a museum and there's a T-Rex coming at you.
Oh my God.
It goes through you, and it's, oh my freaking God, it's so awesome. And then I saw this movie made for VR where the action kind of happens around you. It's so fun.
That's neat. I'm excited for Skyrim and like Fallout in like VR. That stuff be cool.
Yes. It's weird because the movement is different because it kind of makes you dizzy. So you kind of jump from place to place. That's how you move.
Yeah. I really want, like, I don't know, you get like the whole setup with like the treadmill and then like the VR.
Well, what you actually want is a holodeck from Star Trek.
Yeah, I want a holodeck. Yeah,
we're not there yet. We're not there yet. That will be post-scarcity technology.
Yeah, no, I definitely want
the holodeck. I really hope we get holodecks before I die. Like that. I know you're all about the cyborgs, but I am all about the holodeck.
Yeah,
and
sign me up.
Replicators. Holodecks and replicators.
Replicators, if apparently they're impossible. Isaac Arthur discussed that.
Yeah, I can.
They're impossible because of the speed it would require to replicate certain things.
That would make sense. But you never know. I mean, in 1,000 years, they might have figured it out, you know?
Yes, but I will be dead and nobody cares then.
Hey, you don't know that.
You don't know that. We're all supernatural.
We'll be cyborgs, so I'll still be alive. It'll be fine.
This is why everyone needs to get on the cyborg train. Because if we get to a point where we can't die, then we can wait for all the technology we want.
Exactly.
That's true. That is true.
Also, I'm not sure if you saw that. Isaac said something that probably the most prevalent cause of death in a post-scarcity society will be suicide.
Right.
Yep. I can see
because
that.
Lack of purpose and self-esteem and self-actualization options, and
you see that on the rise now in Western societies, where you have a much higher what do you call it, instance, much higher rate of mental health issues.
I don't think it's a higher rate. I think you actually acknowledge it.
I think that there is some of that, but I also think that there is a contributing factor in that we live in a world where we're no longer what's the word I'm looking for?
You no longer have something to like tie you to reality almost.
Right. And I'm not saying it happens like that is the biggest or even the impetus or the cause of it. I think that it is a contributing factor to a rise in mental health issues.
Yeah.
On the other hand, and I think
that's what I meant actual suicide, not something else that you can help.
Well, no, what CJ is trying to say is that
I was replying
the suicide thing is like,
I was trying to reply to a comment. Sorry.
Sorry.
Because it's
such a weird thing having two combos going on.
Yeah, sorry. I know what you're saying, but I think it's kind of different. First of all, you need a certain level of comfort to figure out your mind needs taken care of.
Right.
Well, you still need stimulation. That's kind of the thing. And the idea behind that is that you're lacking the stimulation and the drive that you would have in a society where it's like, oh, I have to get up and go to work and I have my routine.
I don't think that's true for most people. I think other than the really upper.
I'll be right back.
Upper level, yeah, no problem. Other than the upper level society, most people still have to wake up every day and provide for themselves and their own.
No, I'm talking about in like a post-scarcity society.
Yeah,
like that would be the contributing factor to suicides and stuff.
I'm just thinking that now, like, I'm just comparing the US with my country. And I remember seeing this documentary or news report, I don't remember what it was, on our soldiers in Afghanistan compared to the US soldiers in Afghanistan. For the US soldiers, they had ongoing programs to deal with PTSD and things like that. There was nothing of the sort for Romanians. And the Americans were like, what? Are you like the happiest people in the world? Well, no. If we show any signs of PTSD, we're fired. So nobody talks about it. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen as much. It's just very well hidden. And I know of a lot of people who suffer from depression and don't get any treatment for it, or any other mental health issues, and they don't realize that they have a mental health issue because you're just like, oh, you're a little sad, get over it.
Yeah. Well, and that's still a really big thing in North America. It's just where I think a lot of people realize that more problems are being caused than fixed by just ignoring the issue, and they're starting to take steps. Like, it's still not great in some regards, but it's steps, it's baby steps. And you don't fix, like CJ said, you don't clean up a hoarder's house in one day kind of thing. Like, you gotta do it bit by bit, and it takes time. And you have to, especially with like built-in stigmas and stuff, you gotta kind of like pry fingers away from things that people are like holding on to for life and death kind of thing.
True. And let's face it, in post-scarcity, crime, like usual type of crimes, would be almost non-existent. There will be no because no.
Right.
So if you assume it's a true post-scarcity society where there is no danger to your life, then the only way for anything to happen if you do it to yourself.
Yeah.
Or
and I also think it's important to think about suicide in those circumstances as not necessarily how we think of suicide now.
Yeah, no, it would be a completely different paradigm.
The concept of suicide as I am making this choice not because I'm depressed or because my life has no meaning, but because whether you believe in something after death or the next phase of life, or however you want to term that, somebody who chooses that with rationale, and I'm not sure how rational you can be about it, but I mean, but I think those are the kinds of, when we talk about suicide in the present versus suicide in a post-scarcity, post-accidental death society, I think you're talking about some very different nuances and some very different motivations.
Of course, because first of all, you'd have no anxiety over tomorrow. Like, there's no issue of whether you have enough food for tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, or whether you have somewhere to sleep. That's all gone. Yeah. So
I would like to point out that I vote with Sarah on the teleportation issue. I'm a big fan of developing teleportation.
It is. It will disappoint you once you listen to the other post-scarcity video from Isaac Arthur. Because the problem with replicating a human somewhere is that it would need an incredible speed. And there's just not any way of creating that speed and rebuilding a human before the water evaporates.
Yeah.
Kind of sucks.
It's very sad.
But if neither of you has seen it yet, I do recommend Altered Carbon on Netflix. I think you'll love it.
Oh, I've heard really good things about that.
I have not watched it yet, but I have heard good things as well.
I've seen it all. It's absolutely brilliant.
Oh, yeah. It's on my list.
brilliant. It's a futuristic world, kind of dystopian. It's a world where you can have access to anything if you have enough money.
Right.
And the rich live forever, obviously.
Yeah.
Bodies are called sleeves, and you can re-sleeve.
It's almost like a Ghost in the Shell type of.
Not exactly.
It makes me
Not
think
exactly,
of.
but somehow maybe.
You guys ever watch or hear of like Dollhouse? Show called
Yes.
Dollhouse. It makes me think of Dollhouse, sort of.
Yes.
No, I haven't seen it.
They like.
That's a Joss Whedon.
Yeah, it's a Joss Whedon thing, and it's like the concept is they take a snapshot of your personality, and then they wipe your body, and then they download another personality into it, basically.
So you basically become a different person altogether.
Yeah, and then they could take your personality and put it in someone else if they want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the idea of like swapping bodies and stuff, but like it's a one specific company, and it's like modern day stuff, so it's not like the norm, and it's super weird. But it's neat. It's a good one. Definitely, I would recommend that. I never finished the actual series. I got to the second last episode.
Yeah.
No, I think I had that thing where it's like, you know, when you get to the end of a series and you're like, I don't want it to end.
Yes.
And then it just never.
And if you don't watch the last episode, it never ends.
Yeah, it's like I know what had happened.
If you don't
like,
read the
I know
last
almost
page,
everything.
You don't read the last page of the book, it doesn't end.
Nope. So in my mind, Dollhouse never ends because I never finished it. I would wholeheartedly recommend it.
Perfect.
I did that with several. I've done that with several series. Like, I can't watch that last episode. Last episodes are always sad. They're always like
tie everything up and someone like dies or something like that. And, you know. What else? I was talking. Someone else mentioned something to me. I'm like, oh yeah, I watched almost all of that and then never finished it. I don't know what it was. There's another series I did that with. I don't do it very often, but that one I did.
There was a Friends, the show Friends.
Mm-hmm.
I've never watched the last episode of that series.
They're all still friends.
No, I finished that.
I don't know if I finished it. I don't think I did.
Nope.
No, I don't think I did.
Can't do it. Can't do it. And it's not even like my favorite show. It's like, it's a sitcom, so it's not like high input or high impact or anything like that. I just nope. Can't do it. And now
sometimes you just got those things, right?
15 years, and so I just figure I'm just never going to watch it. Just be like, nope.
Well, why do you want it? Well, you don't want it to end. Why would you watch it?
I'm not going to have it end. It'll just be constant stupid television right there for me to watch, and it'll go on forever.
Exactly. It's like nothing ever.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense to me.
Although I will say that my sister was sick last week, and so I watched some Friends, and I was like, wow, this show is really dated. Like, it's just like there's a whole bunch of like pop culture references that are really dated, technology that's really dated.
Situations that just wouldn't happen in any other circumstance anymore.
Like,
you guys
there's stuff that they
episode with the new laptop.
Yes.
Oh my
goodness.
Dude, I have more than that on my phone memory card. Like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Well, here's the funny part about that. Every time I see that episode, I think about my senior year, my the class where I discovered the internet. It was called Technology Today. That was the name of the class. And to give you kind of there was a computer animated, a CAD program. The computer that ran that program was a CAD, it was a CAD machine. That's the only thing it did. But there was also like a plastics, I have this little plastic bear that I made that you had to run the computer for the plastics thing, and you injected plastic into a mold. And anyway, but I remember the teacher who taught this, he talked about he'd gotten a brand new computer, and it had 1 gigabyte of memory, of not of RAM, but of memory. And he called it the beast. And I can remember him saying, and this blows my mind to this day, but I can remember him saying, there is no way I'm ever going to use all that memory. And like 5 years later, I got an outboard hard drive that was 250 gigs. And I thought, I wonder what Mr. Thatcher would say about this. Because it's just
such a huge difference, though.
It is. Like
you do realize now, just like the cheapest smartphone has more than 1 gigabyte.
Right. Like
a lot more.
And that's just, it's crazy. Like, it's just so crazy.
It just boggles the mind.
It does. It just, ugh. Well, and I'm thinking about like my laptop, I'm upgrading my RAM on my laptop from 4 gigabytes to 8. And I feel like that's just not enough, but that's all I can do right now. And all I can think is, I think his had like 365 megabytes. I think that's what his RAM was in that computer.
Jesus. And that was the beast.
Yes, and that was the beast. You referred to it as the beast. And it just, oh.
Well, it was in its time, just like dinosaurs used to be beasts around here, and they died.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, God.
8 terabytes.
So, before I forget, I did link in the description down below 2 guides. One is the ICO 12-step guide to GDPR. And the second one, it's GDPR and email marketing from MailerLite. They explain how implementing everything can actually help your what do you call it? Your email marketing. So that's there, but do keep in mind that MailerLite confirmed the same thing I said earlier, that only in some cases do you need to re-engage your entire list.
Yeah.
Some cases. They sent an email to everyone, so as long as you've built your email list correctly, you don't have to worry about it. And I thought I'd just drop this in because we kind of went off topic, and I'm fine with that because we spoke about this for like an entire hour. So I feel like we've met our goal for the day, and now we can chat about post-scarcity and becoming cyborgs and all computers because that's fun.
You know, that's sort of related. I mean, it's a slippery slope sometimes. Like, look at Fahrenheit 451. Like, with this kind of stuff, I always go back to that because it's like people didn't want to read books and they didn't have any privacy and they just plugged into screens and that's all they wanted. They didn't care about anything. And, you know, that's the kind of stuff you've got to remember. Like, if you don't use it, then you lose it. That's kind of that's the situation where if you don't pay attention, then it's a slippery slope, and then you're standing in the middle of a hoarder's house trying to clean up the entire thing in one day.
Yeah, which won't happen.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not going to because we're being proactive, you know? That's the good part about it.
To be honest, I think we don't really have a proper privacy and data education. Because right now, everyone's response to Facebook and whatever is like, oh, there's this new platform called, I don't know, it's a stupid name, MeWe or something. Let's all go there.
Yeah.
Well, great, but there's no one there.
Well, and that's not addressing the issue. That's just jumping ship to another ship that could have the same holes in it at that point.
Yeah, also, knowing the issues with privacy, knowing the Facebook rules, I always see those stupid games. Don't post X photo from your phone.
No.
Really?
They're phishing scams.
No, they're not. It's just people playing stupid games. People I know. And because, you know, they're like, oh, let's play this game that I saw on, I don't know, whatever.
That's the thing, though. A lot of those things are getting security information from you. That's why I say be careful about that stuff. Because a lot of that is trying to pull security question answers from you so it can brute force your account.
Yeah, but
so
that's
be
not,
careful
like,
about that shit.
If you post the fourth most recent photo from your computer, from your phone, it won't really get you to a lot of things. But I mean, it
Not
might.
those ones, but
Those,
there are
those
some
are-
that, yeah.
Those are the ones I mean, because sometimes, it's a photo of you and your kids. Are you really going to post that?
Well, yeah, like
Right.
people in general, just be smart about what you're doing on the internet. Like that's, I think, a lot of things people
That
just take
has
for granted.
a lot to do with it. It's just like you said. I think it was you said earlier. A lot of it is just common sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just use your brain and think if something seems like it might be too good to be true, or it might be that's not really, I keep going back to it might be too good to be true. I mean, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, and never
it
forget
probably is.
Don't forget either that the internet's like an open window.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, you can take it down, but it's not gone. And this
Right.
is like a step towards that, but at the end of the day, that's not how the internet works. Like there's caching and there's stuff that crawls and archives and like nothing is gone forever. Like that's impossible to think that it is.
If you ever put it on the internet, it's forever there. It's fine.
Yeah.
And you got to remember that when you're posting pictures and talking about where you live or like what your address is, like these are things that go out that window and you can't get back. You can try, but it's not easy. And that's the thing. It's not easy.
Right.
I mean, if you're living somewhere in Romania where, come, please.
Yeah.
I have careers not figuring out where I live, but you can try.
If you can stop and bring my mail on the way, that would be great.
Yeah,
that would be fantastic.
Something from the UK because the local post tends to lose them. So that would be great. But the thing is, like, you can try to come and rob me. You might be robbed on the way here. It's fine. But I was always aware of the fact that my information is everywhere because I used to have a company registered here at this address. Even when I was living in Bucharest. I've always been aware of that. My name was out there a lot because my name and my email, my phone number were on all the press releases.
Yeah.
Because people needed to contact me. So the thing is, I started using social media as part of my work and also peppered in some personal stuff. But I always knew that and acted accordingly.
Well, and that's the thing with it kind of goes back to that common sense thing. It's like, yeah, if you're putting that information up and being okay with it, then that's fine. But you can't get upset in certain situations where that data comes back to bite you in the ass because you willingly put it up on there.
Yes, it's true. And I mean, I keep saying this and people ignore me. There are no free lunches, people.
No.
If you get something to use for free, they are getting something in return. Because they need,
everyone's got to get paid.
The storage and everything that is required to power something as huge as Facebook. Even at the low costs of cloud computing, that's still a lot of money. A lot of money. And on top of that, they make nice profit. So clearly they're making a lot of money off you.
Yeah.
Well, and they have to do it somehow. And that's what I think a lot of people forget, especially on the internet, is everyone's got to get paid at some point or another.
Yeah.
Servers don't run for free. Everything needs electricity to run. We're still at a point where things need to be powered.
Yeah.
And everything's running on a thing that needs power.
Yeah.
So someone's got to pay the power bills at some point.
If you want to help with that and you want to invest in future technology, maybe don't invest on stupid, Kickstarter campaigns for things that can't work. Like this device that draws water from the air and turns it into drinkable water in the desert where there's no humidity, so no water in the air. Don't invest in that. Try to find any fusion projects and maybe donate to those if it's at all possible. By the way,
like, I feel like you should just do your research at the end of the day. Like, that's a big thing, is do your research.
And here's the thing. You have the internet at your disposal. It's not like you can't go out there and get that information.
Yeah, but not all of us are scientists. So just to be perfectly honest, fusion will solve a lot of our problems, like all our powering problems, all of them. Would solve them with fusion. All fusion research is international, so there's no one country that gets access to it. Once fusion is discovered, the entire world has access to it because it's international. It's a collaboration between everyone. So I'm not sure if you can donate to that, but I'm pretty sure, especially for people who like to write to their senators and whatever, you can direct funds there.
Yeah.
Like definitely.
And that, I think, is an important point as well. Active, and particularly active engagement in your political system makes a difference, and not just like in the voting. Like here in the States, sometimes we think about things like, or we think about it in terms of, well, I voted, so I did my part. But one of the things that I've discovered, and in fact, I worked for an organization for many years that lobbied, like they have a lobbyist at the state level, and they don't get everything they want, but they have a lot more impact by engaging, and they encourage their members to engage. And they have, they had all these things that they talked about, things you can do. Building your representatives here in the States, they're people. You can build a relationship with them, email them, tweet at them. I mean, again, the internet is this wonderful tool that you can use to engage with your political representatives. And by doing so, you can encourage things like fusion and other research, and encourage them to advocate for them to support those kinds of things at both the local and the national level.
Well, I think it's kind of important. It kind of ties back to that GDPR kind of discussion. Like, this is an EU specific thing, but if you want things like this to happen in your own country, then you need to be speaking with your representatives, because that's how change that's how it gets started. Like, the ball doesn't get rolled by itself. Someone's got to push. Like, that's a law of gravity. And like, you've got to do that thing, right?
Yeah. I would also like to point out that the part of post-scarcity is access to accurate information. Yeah. And plentiful of it. I would suggest also being very aware of your educational systems and trying to improve those first.
Yes.
And I would like to mention something that happened recently, and I was just checking the Facebook page now to see if they apologized, and they did, because they're idiots. The liberals in Romania are not on the left, they're on the right, because we're weird. Anyway, but the Liberal Party has a youth organization, and this youth organization tried to do a smart campaign, and in that they offended an entire group of people who are called decreței in Romanian. This comes from a decree that Ceausescu issued sometimes in 67, I think, late 60s anyway. And that decree pretty much prohibited every kind of abortion, unless in some cases if it was a medical emergency. The result of that is that between the late 70s and 89, when the revolution happened, a lot of people were born. And these are the decreței. Anyway, this is like a diminutive of decree in Romanian, and then plural. That's how they refer to these people. I'm one of them because I was born in 82. And they kind of were ironic and mean to an entire group of people. I would like to point out these are their parents, and these are the people who died in the revolution. And now they had to apologize publicly. So this is like our left. Although liberals in Romania are not on the left. It's weird. It's a complicated system. And the thing is, because we're reversed, like the Socialist Party is still on the left, but they're kind of conservative in other areas. and the liberals are kind of on the right because they're more libertarian, let's say. But it's weird. There's no left or right in Romania. It's center with some sort of notes of left and right. But because young people don't know shit and they watch US news, maybe, I don't know. There was this reporter that went to the youth meetings for both sides and asked on what side their party was, and they got it mixed up. The liberals were convinced they're a left-leaning party. And the other ones, well, this is for those who knew anything about it. So I would like to point out, this is the generation that's going to lead us in the future. And the reason why they are so out of it is because the education system is not the greatest. Probably. Because, I mean, I don't want to say they're stupid because I don't believe that. I don't believe they can all be that stupid or that only stupid people go into politics. I refuse to believe that. But I was like, it's such a huge portion of the population. It's the majority of the Romanian population, and you decide to antagonize them. I would like to point out that their generation has a lower presence when it comes to voting. Just saying. So their choice of communication was to antagonize most of their voters. That's fair. That's totally smart. And now they're like, I was just checking the apologies, something like, oh, because of our poor communication, some things could have been interpreted as whatever, you fucked up. You just fucked up badly.
Whatever, you just fucked up.
The moment when you try to separate people in groups and demonize a certain group, how are you better than communists who decided intellectuals were the bane of their existence?
Right.
Seriously, what's wrong with you? So yeah, I'm thinking education is the main issue we should try to focus on. It's hard. It will probably not happen in a very long time because people resist certain things. But it's important. It's important.
Well,
education
and I think
is important.
Here's one of the issues that we deal with here in the States is there are two schools of thought about what education is for. There's a group of people who believe that education is about teaching people to think and and like critical thinking skills and problem solving and that kind of thing. And then there's a school of people who believe that education is about indoctrination. And here's the thing. Interestingly enough, those two things don't fall along party lines. So here in the States, we often think about like the Republican Party as being all about indoctrination and the Democratic Party as being all about critical thinking, but there is crossover and there are people on both sides who pull into the others. And so I think it's important to remember that critical thinking is so important. I'm a critical thinker, critical thinking proponent. I believe that we should be teaching children how to process information critically. Not because I think that indoctrination is necessarily bad. There are some good things about indoctrination. You can indoctrinate people with really good stuff. But the problem with indoctrination is that it comes with a price. And that price is that what you have learned is never wrong. And that being wrong means disagreeing. And those two concepts are they're so wrong in and of themselves that I think that advocating for critical thinking, teaching critical thinking is vital to the kind of steps we're talking about here. When you engage with people online, when you engage with information that you're given online, you have to have critical thinking skills in order to process. Is what I'm seeing true? Is what I'm hearing accurate? How do I know it's accurate? How can I find out if it's accurate? Does this jive with what I know of the world? And those critical thinking skills are so vital, so that when you have kids who are moving into adulthood and they're engaging with their representatives. Thank you. The words. When they're engaging. Words are hard.
Words are hard.
When they're engaging with their representatives, and not just with representatives, but with other people. I mean, like the three of us are from 3 different countries. Yep. We have different experiences and different understanding of life based on those experiences. And to engage with somebody who has those different experiences from you is both rewarding, but it can also be difficult, because you have to be able to critically think about how, for example, how Alina's engagement and her experience with the religious culture in Romania is vastly different from my experience with engagement with religious communities here in the States. And to critically think about how that impacts your outlook, and that's, I mean, that's so important in how to engage with other people. Like, that's basic relationship building, and critical thinking plays a huge role in that.
Yeah, that's why I think the worst thing I ever heard was of safe spaces in universities. I don't get that. There should be no safe space in university. You should be exposed to everything there is, so that you can learn how to think and how to actually debate and how to see behind different theories and find out the ones that are actually true and benefit to your whatever.
Yeah. Well, you shouldn't need like safe spaces, right? Like, you shouldn't need somewhere to like hide and be yourself. Like,
well,
I think the thing that goes with like critical thinking is also empathy, which is something that I think a lot of people are missing, because as much as critical thinking is really good, if you don't have that empathy to like process that as in like a emotional way, then you have no connection to it, and it's even harder already.
Yep.
Well, I think that when we talk about safe spaces and not wanting people to be uncomfortable, it's interesting. So I've been doing a lot of research over the past couple of weeks about how to deal with anxiety and dealing with panic attacks and this kind of thing. And everything that I've seen, the most effective treatment, or the most effective treatment for dealing with anxiety are cognitive behavioral therapy and what they call exposure. So exposing yourself to the things that make you anxious, so that you can understand. There's a doctor, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he talks about one of the things you have to internalize is when you're feeling anxious or you have a panic attack, to internalize the idea that this is uncomfortable, but it's not going to kill you. You will survive this. You will get through it. And I think that offering safe spaces negates that mindset, so that people begin to have avoidance behaviors where they avoid things that make them uncomfortable. I don't like to be uncomfortable. I don't like to be uncomfortable. No. But I also know that I cannot stay in my house my entire life and never interact with other people, and never, I can't stay in my room all day and drink tea and read books as much as I would like to, and as wonderful as that would be, and I'd never have to interact with the outside world. That would be awesome. But
you can, but I mean, you can extend the time you spend doing that, but you can't do it like forever.
Right. And I think that here's the other thing. It decreases the value of your life. It decreases the value, the richness, by avoiding things that are discomforting, by avoiding ideas that are discomforting. Makes life less enjoyable. I mean, my best friend an avowed atheist and I am a dedicated Christian.
Yep.
And that means that we have conversations that are intensely discomforting for both of us. But I would not give up a single conversation that we've had about that. There are other conversations I'd give up with.
I mean, I'm agnostic at the best of times and an atheist at the worst of times. So we've had pretty interesting conversations. Right. I would never want to give that up.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, and if you cut yourself off from that, you lose for fear of, and I think this is what it comes from. It comes from a fear of being proved wrong.
Yeah.
That what you believe, what you hold dear to yourself is wrong. And that kind of fear paralyzes you from living a full life, I think.
Yep, I agree with you there.
Yeah, I'd say so. Well, and it's kind of, you kind of hit the nail on the head with the whole, it kind of devalues your life because, or it takes away from that richness because everything just kind of blends together at that point. Like, I always think of when you were in school and you went on summer vacation. It's like, it's really fun for the first little bit. And then near the end, it's like, man, I don't even know what day it is. I'm so confused. I'm wearing clothes that are like weeks old and I'm a mess. And then you get back in the swing of your routine and back into things at school. And it's like, oh, right. There's a day in, a day in, and a day out, and things have a natural progression and stuff. And if you're just kind of locking yourself away and doing what's the status quo and comfortable for you, then you're not going to shake things up. You're not going to learn. You're not going to expand those experiences because you're just going to do same old and what's comfortable. You're not going to go and learn things that might be beneficial for you, but make you a little nervous or give you a bad feeling. It's like, well, maybe you have to step into the deep end of the pool a little bit and then let yourself realize, oh, well, yeah, I can swim. I remember. This is a thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I think that,
the thing is, like, we tell ourselves that every time that everything you want to achieve is on the other side of your comfort zone, and that comes with writing and chasing your dreams in general. Yet, when you think of critical thinking, you kind of want that comfort zone, but everything good is outside it.
Yeah.
When you're not isolated and when you're exposed to things and not just talking with people who have the exact same beliefs as you, that's when you can actually change the world.
Yeah.
Because just getting confirmation for everything you say, that's nothing. It's like talking to yourself.
There's no growth. There's no. And growth is so important for living things to grow, to change, to become more. I mean, we talk about becoming cyborgs and living in a post-scarcity society and all of those things are not possible without growth, without change. And not
and without taking risks, right? Like, like some of the greatest inventions, like some of the things that you're using right now came either from accident, from someone taking a risk, and it's like, oh, that turned out way differently than I was expecting. Or they took a risk. Yeah, look at not Advil, that's a bad example because I think that's Canadian specific, but like heart medications or Viagra, like you see these things all throughout, like, or even cell phones. They were a fictional thing in Star Trek, and someone took the chance to be like, I'm gonna make this thing. Like, that's the thing. Like, if you don't take that first step and just kind of, I might fall on my face, but I'm going to give it a shot anyways, then you don't know what's going to happen when you take that step anyways. Right. You can assume, but
there's an old Disney movie, believe it or not, there's an old Disney movie that I love. It was made in, I think it was made in the 50s and 60s. I think they remade both of them, but the first one was called The Absent-Minded Professor. They changed it to Flubber. It was a Robin Williams movie. So the original one was called The Absent-Minded Professor, and then the second one was called Son of Flubber. And in the second one, it's a very timely movie, and I highly recommend it. But the main character, the absent-minded professor, he ends up in court having to defend, he did this experiment, and he's being basically in front of what was at that time HUAC. It was the House Un-American Activities Committee, I think is what it was. It was McCarthyism, and that was what was going on in the US at that time. Anti-communist, anti-socialist, all of these things. Anyway, but he says something that he's on the stand, and the prosecutor says, "Is it true that you encourage your students to make mistakes?" And he says, "Well, yeah, a man who falls on his face is at least going in the right direction. He's moving forward." And he goes on to talk about how mistakes help us learn and help us become better at what we do. And if you're afraid to make a mistake, if you're afraid to be wrong, you never get to the next level. You never, and it goes back to that growth and that richness of life and that capacity to change. And taking this back to the topic that we're sort of talking about, I think this relates in terms of this is growth in the regulation of how we interact online and how this is an outgrowth of that. And taking this step and moving forward allows us to be better at what we do and better at engaging with each other online and engaging with each other's data. And I think that that's important.
Yeah. Also, I think it's important to remind everyone that this gives you a lot of rights. It doesn't really mean you're giving away less data. Yeah. So with the GDPR thing, don't get into this comfort zone where you think you have privacy all of a sudden.
Yeah, like your data is still going to be out there. Don't get cocky and think that, oh, well, I can just retract all of my stuff. Because at the end of the day, it goes back to that open window concept. Like you can try and claw back as much as you can, but you have to always assume that there is something of your identity left on the internet.
Yeah, pretty much. There's always going to be some sort of breadcrumbs.
Yeah, this just gives you more control. And at the end of the day, it's a step in the right direction. And that's just it. We're not falling on our face. We're taking that first step. It's like, oh, it's not perfect, but it's
we're stumbling. We're stumbling.
Yeah, well, and it's babies stumble a lot when they start to learn to walk. And that's the thing with new technology, especially like the internet. For as long as we've had the internet, it's new technology. We lived hundreds of thousands of years without this technology and this stuff. Like we are babies in the grand scheme of things, and we have no idea what we're doing a lot of the time. So sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes we have no idea what we're doing. But in order to realize that you've made a mistake, you have to make it, identify that you've made a mistake, that there's a problem, and then take the next step to fixing that problem.
Yeah.
Totally agree with you there.
The critical thinking thing. Like if you can't critically think about a problem and a solution, then you can't take that next step anyways.
Yeah, that's so true. I love how we wrapped it up and gotten back to GDPR. That was great. So just a reminder, if you don't have the patience of watching this entire stream to figure everything we've talked in the first half of it, more than half of it, like in the first hour of it, and then we just tangentially talked about it through the second one. I did leave links to some guides in the description down below. We're always here for questions post-stream. No problem. Yep. Ask away. You can reply.
Contact us on social media too. I think all of us are on Twitter and Facebook at least.
Yep.
Yeah, we're all on Facebook. We can just search for our names and you'll find us.
Send us messages. We've got no problem with it. Actually, I have no problem with it. I can't speak. I won't speak for.
I don't have a problem with it.
I really have no problem with
spammed.
Like, I don't treat, like my personal profile has always been public. I've never treated it as a private place.
Yeah.
Because it's not at the end of the day.
Well, and that's just it. Like you can hide yourself behind as many fake walls for the privacy stuff, but there's still screenshots and stuff still gets leaked, and like all those memes that you enjoy of people saying dumb stuff, like they said it in confidentiality and someone took a screenshot and that's how you're reading it and laughing at it. So remember that kind of stuff.
Basically, yes, it happens. Plus, if you have a public profile and you're friends with over 3,000 people, that's no longer a private space.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I personally don't know all 3,000 of them. I probably personally.
I mean, I'd be amazed if you did.
I probably personally know, like in real life, I probably know like 10%. And I've known them throughout my life.
Right.
Because I have friends from all the schools, but that's about it. So yeah, keep that in mind. And it's not really that complicated. It's
Just
really
be
not.
smart. You know,
And,
that's kind of what it comes down to.
For getting compliant and getting GDPR ready. And if this hasn't been enough and you need to ask questions, like Trinda said, just message us. I will do another video on GDPR once my website is launched. I will show you my privacy policy, how I set everything up, what texts are included in my email, all that fun stuff. I can tell you exactly what services I use for everything and what I do. I can tell you now that for Insta-Freebie, I opted with the non-mandatory giveaways for everything I do. Because then people have to actually check a box for you to email them, and they give you active permission twice. First when they fill in their data, and then when they check that box. If they don't want to check that box, great, they just get a free book to read it, because that's the whole point. You can always sell more books at the end of that book if they enjoyed it, so it's no problem.
Yeah.
So that's how I go about it. Book Funnel, like I said, already kind of does a double opt-in.
Yeah.
And that's specifically for mail list building. It's nothing else. It's not titled as a giveaway. It's more titled as a group promotion. So it's different.
Yeah.
And like I said, everyone gives out reports. I have a report in Insta-Freebie with all people who subscribed since early 2017 when I created my account. It's there, it's downloadable. You can save it on your computer, save it in the cloud. Just get all the documentation you need in case there are issues. There might be. I doubt most readers will file complaints for an author newsletter, especially since most of them do sign up. However, be honest with yourself. If you ever added someone to your newsletter without their permission, maybe it's time to re-engage everyone.
Yeah.
Or if you had a plugin that had a checkbox at the end of your comments, and if they didn't uncheck that checkbox, they got subscribed to your newsletter, again, re-engage everyone. Yeah. That's just fair.
Cover your bases. That's basically, that's what this kind of legislation's kind of making people do, is just make sure your common sense bases are covered. That's kind of, that's pretty much what you're doing, basically.
Yeah. If you've already been quite open about what you're using emails for and how you got your subscribers, then you have nothing to worry. But I would still send, like in your next newsletter, I'd put an information box like, hey, this is the GDPR info. You have these rights. Feel free to use them at any point in time. And as always, here's the unsubscribe button.
Or if you got questions,
email.
Give me an email back. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And I feel like maybe sometimes people get intimidated thinking they can't reply to these emails that they get, because I think a lot of people realize that they're automated sometimes, or well, not automated, but that they're not the only one receiving that email. So it's like, well, I'm not going to reply because it's not a mailbox that's monitored, I guess. Yeah. So like, just to let people know, be like, hey, if you've got questions or anything, I've got social media or I've got email, I have no problem answering stuff. And I think a lot of people are afraid to just kind of reach out thinking that they won't get heard.
This is why I always try to make my newsletters personal, just to address people like I'm talking to a friend, and always make sure to remind them they can always email me.
Yeah. Well, and it's important because people are so used to not being listened to. I guess that's the best way to say it.
Yeah,
I think
they're used to not, like, the no reply emails, right? Like, so it's good to remind people of stuff.
Yeah, and the thing is that people are fine waiting a bit to get a reply. They're used to waiting, so you don't have to stress out because you get like 10 emails and you have to reply all of them in half an hour.
Right.
Not the case. Especially if you're lucky like me and you live in a completely different time zone. You have some leeway. Sometimes. Other times you get important messages in the middle of the night and you're like, oh my freaking God, I have to wake up in a hurry and reply. So yeah, that's always fun. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here with me, guys. I really appreciate the conversation. I think it derailed in the most amazing way possible. Without really derailing, I mean, we kept going back to the situation at hand, which was absolutely fantastic. Ares decided he has to drop in now because he needs.
He hasn't had his screen time yet.
So before we part, thank you, Timmy. I'm so glad you loved it.
Yeah,
thanks for coming.
We're going to be we'll be here again next Saturday, and I'll be here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. my time. Yeah, he's kind of bored now. 9 a.m. my time, 4 p.m. Australia, 1 a.m. Central, 11 p.m. is Pacific time, and Eastern. I'm sorry, it will be 2 a.m. But I will have my new writing with Claire. We had one this morning. It was fun. We got some words done. She's got some editing done. We're doing it again tomorrow. So yeah, most people are asleep at that time, Timmy. We know that. We know that.
I mean, they get onto YouTube afterwards, so if you always miss it, you can always go back and watch it again.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is one of the wonderful things.
I am totally in that boat most of the time where it's like, oh my God, I am sleeping and I will watch this later.
That's true. And for me, it's like they're literally happening in the middle of the night. So I just watch them the next day. And I work through them. Like if it's a write-in, I actually work throughout it entirely. I just edit or write or whatever and catch most of the conversation. So yeah, before we go, anything you guys would like to promote this week? CJ?
So I'm hoping to get my own website up in June. Otherwise,
I can't wait for that.
Yeah, I'm excited. I like it. I like it. The platform. I'm very and this is the first one I've ever done, so I'm really excited about trying something awesome. New. I'm growing as a person.
I'm more than open to beta test it for you.
Oh, that would be awesome. That would be very helpful. Yes.
Sure, no problem. And by the way, I should remind you all that CJ here is going to launch her website with a bang, and she'll have a serial to read on her website, a free one. So you should definitely get ready for that. And if I may, CJ, if I may,
absolutely,
you already have the domain, right?
Yes.
While you're building the site, I would definitely recommend maybe having a static page that says coming soon, announces the month where it comes soon, and maybe add a sign-up form for your mailing list so that they find out when your site is live.
Make sure it has a double opt-in button.
Yeah. Right. I totally recommend MailerLite from the start because MailChimp just annoys me these days. And that way you can give us the link to the website and I can paste it in all the chats we have.
There you go.
So that you can get
then you can let people know when the site's live if they sign up for your mailing list.
That's true.
There's the whole deal of that because you can just send an email when the site goes live and you can have all these people visiting it.
It's on my to-do list now.
So, smart.
So happy. By the way, everyone's channels are in the description down below. So yeah, there's that. Trinda?
I don't have anything online.
You have a short story that I've linked to in the description down below.
I do have a short story. I have all sorts of short stories. I'm trying to think. There's so many things in my brain. I have the short story on my mailing list that you can sign up for.
Yeah, and you gave me a link to one, which I think is free for now to read.
Yes, it is on Short Fiction Break, I think is the website, and it is a entry for a short story contest that gets you a little bit of exposure on top of it. So yeah, you can still go and read and leave comments and stuff.
It's in the description, so you can just click there and go straight to the story.
Yep. That's mostly it. I'm gonna I might do some live streaming tomorrow.
Oh, that's cool.
The local anthology of short stories that I'm a part of for the writing group that I'm in is launching Voices Edition 18, I think it is. So that happens tomorrow. So I'll probably be live streaming a little bit from the launch party.
That's
so
awesome.
Keep an eye on my Twitter for that and my Instagram or wherever you follow me, because I'll be posting stuff. So
it's fine. I follow you everywhere. I follow everyone everywhere.
I'm all over the place, so it's just like wherever your preference is.
That sounds great. In my case, there's nothing super new, but as you know, I've got a giveaway going for my vampire urban fantasy novel called The Edge of Hope. It's the first in the Bad Blood series. You can pick a copy for free on InstaFreebie. The link is in the description down below. There's no requirement to join my mailing list, but you can if you want to. This is a separate mailing list that only has to do with urban fantasy because it's kind of a different area than my normal LGBT fiction. Again, not a requirement. You can just download your free book and enjoy it. And yeah, check the link in the description down below. If you're more into the gay romance scene, there's a link to my website where you can go and sign up for my newsletter, the other one. And when you sign up, you get a free copy of my gay military romance, Mission Protect the X. Words are hard, and I can't wait for the new website to be ready, because I can say for free stuff, just go to alina-popescu.com/free reads and enjoy. It's one link, goddammit, I can't wait. I honestly just can't wait. So yeah, thank you again, guys, for being here. Thank you everyone for watching and for chatting with us and for being amazing as always. And enjoy the rest of your weekend. And we'll see you soon. I'll see you tomorrow. All of us will see you next Saturday. Some of us will see you next Friday on Sarah's channel. So you'll be seeing a lot of us, in short.
We'll be everywhere.
Yeah.
We'll just come and go.
Yep. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
I should drop the pen, maybe. I'm a weirdo. You all know that by now, so bye.